What's up, YouTube? I'm Red from Rants. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. We're on the road to 1,000. We hope you guys can help us get there. Alright, so, Ewan McGregor admits Star Wars prequel backlash was difficult. He opens up about the initial backlash the Star Wars prequel trilogy faced, saying it was difficult, they weren't well received. Says the Star Wars prequel faced a considerable amount of backlash upon their release, with many viewers voicing displeasure with aspects such as wooden dialogue and perceived over-reliance on CGI visual effects. While the movies are now seen in a better light, with audiences learning to appreciate them despite their flaws, at the time the prequels were much maligned. The backlash, which at times was quite hateful, had a serious impact on those involved with the productions, including Jake Lloyd, Hayden Christensen, Ahmed Best, and Lucas. Even McGregor, viewed as a prequel highlight, had a hard time. In an interview with THR, McGregor talked about the response to the prequels, admitting it was difficult for him to see the films face as much backlash as they did. It was hard. They didn't get well received. That was quite difficult. They were universally not very liked. When dealing with the property as massive as Star Wars, it's virtually impossible to please everyone. The fact the prequels were divisive shouldn't come as a surprise, as everyone had their own ideas for how the story should unfold. That said, some of the backlash was a step too far. Best contemplated suicide after the Phantom Menace released, and Lloyd and Christensen largely faded from the public eye. McGregor never faced the brunt of the prequel criticism himself, but it's easy to see how the situation was hard for him. He obviously would have preferred the films be well received, and it had to have been difficult for him to see his co-stars be treated the way they were. Fortunately, Star Wars prequel reception has improved over the past couple of decades, something that pleasantly surprised McGregor. Now, as far as this article is concerned, let's face it, these articles that are out there like this are there basically to cast light on how toxic the Star Wars fan base actually is. It's not that they care whether or not fans hated or loved the prequels. It's they care that the sequel trilogy was so hated. So hated to the point that fans want nothing to do with it. They don't even want it to be even canon. That's the reason why articles out there are out there like this, simply to speak on how toxic that Star Wars fan base is. I'm a little bit pissed that it's still in the news like this, that they're still trying to push the narrative of how the sequel trilogy is really good, except for the fact of the toxic fan base of the people that just hate the women and hate Finn being a part of it, and all of this nonsense because of racial prejudice or gender prejudice, all of these different things that they've been spouting for the last couple of years, trying to make excuses for why the sequel trilogy was so bad. So, in a way, I kind of find this as propaganda that isn't necessarily geared towards trying to explain why fans hated the prequel trilogy, or even discussing why why it was that way, and in the hardships that the actors of the prequels face. They don't care about the prequel actors. They only care about the sequel trilogy actors, and this is their way of saying, hey, look, that fan base was bad even back then, so of course they're not going to accept the sequel trilogy. That's really what this article is all about. I'm kind of disappointed by that. I'm disappointed that Ewan McGregor fell for this. I really have a lot of respect for him just as an actor in general. I think he's really good at what he does. I thought he brought the best Obi-Wan Kenobi to the screen. I'm looking forward to him in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but at the same time, I'm a little disappointed that he fell into this trap. Whether he did so willingly or whether he did so, um, not on purpose. Ewan McGregor isn't exactly what you would call a fan of the people to a certain extent. I know he's made some comments about Birds of Prey, about why it failed, and so on. So, I mean, it doesn't really shock me that he has this viewpoint. I think he's sincere with it. And I do believe that, these actors probably was a great shock to him. You take something as iconic as what Star Wars was, and I say was in past tense for a reason. Um, the original trilogy was one of the most beloved film trilogies of all time. So you got to think to yourself when you're making this movie in 1999 or whenever they made the first prequel, um, that even if it's bad, fans are going to lap it up. I think they were really shocked that fans of the film didn't have the same um, they didn't have the same feelings, I guess you could say, or loyalty to the newer cast like Hayden Christensen, like even Ewan McGregor. Even though like I said, Ewan McGregor didn't really get he didn't really get the backlash quite like Hayden Christensen did. But at the same time, that film, I mean, those sets of films were destined for failure, no matter how they did it. And I truly actually do believe that to be true. Um, you can't do a backstory about Darth Vader, one of the most iconic characters of all time, and not think that there's going to be the majority of people that's going to think that you did that wrong. A lot of people are just going to say, why do we even need that story to begin with? Me personally, um, these movies came out when I was a little kid. I loved them back then for even their flaws. Um, I understand. Hey, Hayden Christensen was a terrible actor in that. He ruined a lot of the movies. Padme was even kind of hard to watch at times. But as far as the feel of it, it felt Star Wars, even though, yeah, they did go a little crazy with the CGI. But let's face it, this was late 90s, early 2000s, when everything was going to this CGI. They knew that this was, something that was going to be the future. Um, did they take it a little too far? Yeah, they kind of did. If that movie was made now, there probably would have been a lot less CGI, and it would have probably felt a lot more real. But you have to take in consideration the time that it was made. It was when all of this was brand new. I know I watched a little thing on YouTube the other day about Mortal Kombat when the new games were starting to get into the 3D, and how that kind of changed the perception of those games, and how difficult it was, and how the transition wasn't as flawless as what people may think. Well, when everything was going to this hardcore CGI, it was new, and they wanted to incorporate it in the movies, and they did it a little too much in this movie, and they paid for it ultimately. They really did pay for it, and that's very sad that they did that, because overall, those movies I thought were the best. And I know a lot of original trilogy fans will say, no, that's impossible. The original trilogy was far better. The original trilogy was far better story wise. Story wise, it was better. But look, the fight scenes in it are terrible. They're very dated. The way that they portray some of the characters is looks. I mean, it looks. Let's face it. At times, it kind of looks like Muppets in space. In a lot of ways. I mean, it really does. I mean, you can hate on the CGI of the prequels all you want to, but you gotta admit, um, the original trilogy, like for the time that they did it, of course, in the 70s, 80s, they did the best they could. But let's face it, guys, that didn't look too good either. So, I feel like while all the criticism of the look of the prequels gets criticized, I feel like the originals don't get criticized very much for all the bad things that was wrong with them as well. I mean, they weren't perfect films in that regard. If they were made today, would they be better? Probably. But of course, you wouldn't have, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and all of them that would be helming it either. So it probably wouldn't be quite as good. We'd be stuck in the whole, woke politics that comes with every movie, like what plagued the sequel trilogy. Sequel trilogy was bad all the way around in my book. It had bad character creation. It had bad storyline. Basically, it had a storyline that made no sense whatsoever when you just sit down and think about it for a little bit. Did it have good visuals? Of course it had good visuals. But I don't even think the fight scenes in it were that much better or even comparable to even the fight scenes in the prequel trilogy. I mean, you have the Yoda, Darth Sidious fight. You have the Anakin, Darth Tyrannus fight. Like, you have those fights that were really cool. That's just two of many. I mean, of the beautiful fights that was in the prequel trilogy. I don't even feel like the sequel trilogy even lived up to that standard. So no, I mean, what I'm just trying to say, guys, is yes, the prequels are not perfect. But articles like this are not trying to help the prequels. And that's what concerns me so much. Is there's so much politics behind making the sequel trilogy something that people can tolerate. So much so that they even go back in time and try to look at the prequel trilogy and be like, oh, they almost caused an actor to commit suicide. They made Hayden Christensen just get away from basically acting. Just ruin careers and things because there's such a toxic fan base. That's what this is all about. This isn't about telling you that, the hardships of Ewan McGregor or anything. They don't care about Ewan McGregor. They only care about showing how bad Star Wars fans actually are. This is a problem. This is a huge, huge problem when it comes to Star Wars in general, is you have Star Wars fans not liking Star Wars anymore. And let's face it, a lot of us are that way. Me personally, I'm not one that gave up on it completely, but I have seen countless people that were huge Star Wars fan after the sequel trilogy that wanted no part of it anymore. And I get it. I do get it. I'm still not giving up on this franchise. I mean, it does have some great things going for it. The Mandalorian Mandalorian season 2 just was better than any of my expectations could have ever imagined in a million different ways. Sadly, a lot of the goodwill was lost after the Gina Carano firing and after all the Lucasfilm employees going after Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker. So, I mean, it's still got problems. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say Star Wars is as bad off as what it was after the sequel trilogy just came out, or The Rise of Skywalker. I don't think it's as bad as that now, but let's face it, a lot of the goodwill the Mandalorian brought is gone in a lot of ways. I don't know if any of these even the new shows, even the Obi-Wan series are going to do well. They might, simply for prequel fans watching it, but I don't know. I worry about the future of Star Wars. I hope for the best for the future of Star Wars. But if Star Wars doesn't keep um, these people that are trying to attack fans out of their of writing these articles like this, if they don't keep these people out of the main conversation, we're going to have fans just completely and totally turn off of Star Wars in general. Why would you like something that doesn't like you? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would I'm starting to kind of feel that way with a lot of sports out there. I'm like, it seems like every time I turn around, they tell me or somebody like me how bad I am. I take offense to it, and I get to the point where I'm even like, oh, I'm kind of turned away from this. I'm like, I'm not here to be told how bad I am. I'm not going to watch Star Wars if they're going to keep condemning me for not liking the sequel trilogy or hating Rey. I'm not sexist because I hate Rey. I hate Rey because she's a one-dimensional character. Yeah, I hate Rey because of that. I mean, so yeah, sorry if I hate that, but I'll hate her all day long because she is a waste of a character. They can't call people sexist when people are clamoring. The same people that hate Rey are clamoring for a Ahsoka Tano series. So I mean, in the end, they're even wanting that canceled. So I mean, it's going to get to a point where Star Wars is going to end up killing itself if it's not careful. And I worry about this franchise in that regard. I hope it gets back on the right track, but I will say articles like this kind of piss me off because it's just articles that are trying to hate on Star Wars fans, and I don't know why the media feels like they have to do that with people. I don't know why they can't just be like, you know what, we didn't like your identity politics in the movies, and that's fine. Just move on. Create other characters that you can do identity politics with, but make them more than one-dimensional characters, and maybe we'll like them. Maybe try that media instead of attacking Star Wars fans. That's just my opinion. But as always, guys, let me know what y'all think. Let me know if y'all are kind of offended by these articles like this, like I am. I personally get, maybe I'm a little sensitive when it comes to this because I've heard it so much the last couple of years about the toxic fan base of Star Wars. I feel like the media just completely misleads a lot of the dialogue that goes on here, and I feel like they're doing it in this article as well. But guys, let me know what y'all think, and as always, thanks for watching, and y'all take care.